Our next presenter, Yeyun Du, is an assistant professor of electrical and computer engineering at Vanderbilt University. Dr. Du earned her PhD in mechanical engineering from University of California, Los Angeles. She also holds a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering from UCLA and a Bachelor of Science in Automotive Engineering from the Harbin Institute of Technology in China. Her research focuses on developing wearable and implantable sensors for continuous health monitoring for the diagnoses of cardiovascular and neurological diseases, with designs adaptable to many and diverse populations. She also aims to advance robotics for use in challenging environments, such as in ICUs. Prior to joining Vanderbilt, Dr. Du served as a postdoctoral scholar at Northwestern University, where she led interdisciplinary projects on multimodal sensors integrated with edge artificial intelligence. These innovations have been deployed in hospitals internationally, benefiting patients ranging from neonates to older adults in China, Canada, Mexico, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Du to the stage.
All right, thanks to Wiki for the warm introduction. Morning, everyone. I'm Yeyun Du. I'm Assistant Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Vanderbilt Computer Science, Vanderbilt Institute of Surgery and Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, and Biomedical Engineering. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to speak with the Willcoxon Innovation in Health Science Summit. Today, I'm going to talk about our research experience about from benchtop to bedside and to at-home monitoring, translating wearable technologies into real-world healthcare impact. Before we begin, so let me briefly introduce my lab. I lead the SymBioX lab at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. Our group develops human-centered bioelectronic systems for both wearable and implantable health monitoring. We work across multiple sensing modalities, including physiology and electrochemical sensing, and we explore how these technologies can support applications ranging from clinical monitoring to human-centered human-robot interaction. Ultimately, our goal is to translate engineering innovations into real healthcare impact. But to understand why these technologies are needed, it's very helpful to first look at how the human body actually functions physiologically. The human body operates through multiple physiological systems that function continuously and simultaneously. Neural signals such as EEG on the head reflects brain activity, cognition, and sleep states. Cardiovascular and respiratory dynamics, including the ECG or EKG, mechanical cardiac signals, SCG, which stands for seismograph, which capture the chest vibration induced by the heartbeats, PCG, which stands for phonocardiogram, which literally is like a digital stethoscope, but in a wearable form, and breathing. They capture heart function and cardiopulmonary regulation. Motor signals actually reveal behavior, mobility, while the biochemical and vascular signals provide insights into metabolism and circulation. Each signal provides only a partial view of physiology, but together they reveal a much more complete picture of human health. In other words, health emerges from multiple physiological systems acting together. However, despite the complexity of human physiology, most of the monitoring systems today rely on a single signal at a time. Clinical monitoring systems are typically bulky, wired, and confined to hospital environments, which limits mobility and can even alter natural physiology. So what we are measuring actually is not true. Consumer devices have improved accessibility, like Apple Watch here, but they still provide sparse and intermittent measurements rather than continuous physiology insights. As Dr. Dia just mentioned, the future should be continuous, connected, predictive, disruptive. Today, I'll show how. What we ultimately need are integrated systems that can continuously capture multiple physiological signals in real-world environments. To move healthcare from episodic care toward continuous and proactive care, we rely on physiological signals that can be measured continuously. In cardiovascular health, different signals provide complementary information. ECG, again, captures the electrical rhythm of the heart, while SCG and PCG reflect the mechanical contraction and heart sounds. Optical signals such as PPG, which stands for photoplasmogram, provide insights into blood flow and vascular dynamics. In neurological and sleep health, EEG allows us to monitor brain activity and seizures, while synchronized cardiorespiratory, motion, and acoustic signals help reveal sleep states and sleep disorders. And in motion and behavior, inertia and muscle signals provide functional context, helping us quantify movement patterns, tremor, and fall risk. The key point is that each signal alone is incomplete, as we mentioned. It's like trying to understand a movie by looking at one frame. You miss the context. When synchronized together, multimodal biosignals provide the continuous context needed to detect physiological changes early. The next challenge is how do we measure all of the signals continuously and unobtrusively in everyday life? Today, I'll show several examples of how wearable bioelectronics can enable this. We'll start with the cardiovascular and sensing for continuous monitoring of the heart. Specifically, I'll present two examples. First, a cuffless blood pressure monitoring system using synchronized ear PPG and a chest ECG. Ear PPG, this is a larger version. I didn't bring the small version, but it's like an ear ring you put right here. And a chest sensor is a different version than this, but put on your chest. You don't need the cuff. Second, a multimodal wearable platform that enables aortic valve disease severity detection. Together, these two examples illustrate how wearable sensors can recover clinically meaningful cardiovascular information in real-world setting. Then I'll show you how wearable systems combined with AI chips can help us understand sleep and neurological signals. I'll also discuss synchronized neural motion platforms for seizure monitoring and neonatal care. And finally, I'll close by discussing the future direction toward a closed-loop disruptive wearable health systems that can both monitor and respond to physiological changes. Clinically, blood pressure is still measured primarily using cuff-based devices. These devices are accurate, but they are inherently intermittent and can be uncomfortable used repeatedly, especially for frequent monitoring. Meanwhile, many cuffless approaches rely on wrist or finger PPG, which can be inconvenient during daily activity and highly sensitive to motion and posture. As a result, continuous blood pressure measurement in real-life conditions remains challenging. To address this challenge, we develop a synchronized multimodal wearable system that pairs a chest ECG with a ear-mounted PPG sensor. Both sensors include the inertial sensing for motion awareness. We evaluated several optical measurement sites, including the finger, wrist, forehead, and the ear. So finger and wrist are highly sensitive to motion. You already see that. And also hydrostatic effects during daily activity. That from middle school, like P is equal to rho GH, right? The height, the difference, right, between your arms. So that's why every time cuff-based measurement, you have to stay still and rest your arm, those stuff. So it's very sensitive to hydrostatic effects. The forehead provides a stable contact, but reduce the pulsatile morphology. The ear provides a useful compromise. It's anatomically anchored, less affected by limb motion, and preserves a strong pulse morphology suitable for beat-level analysis. We just need to look at one beat. Forget about history, forget about like that's a lot of people are doing, right? Like deep models, machine learning models, in the past several minutes. No, we only need 1 bit morphology. By pairing the ear PPG with chest ECG, we can measure pulse transition time, which is the delay between electrical activation of the heart and the pulse arrival at the periphery. Importantly, this configuration maintains a stable geometric relationship between the two sides, even during movement. Both sensors stream synchronize the ECG, PPG, and the inertia sensor via Bluetooth to a mobile device for real-time visualization and logging. To evaluate this system under realistic physiological conditions, we used the 2 complementary data sets. First, we conducted a wearable validation study under dynamic conditions. Participants completed a 4-phase protocol consisting of rest, cycling, recovery, and a cold pressure test. Each stage actually lasted for 5 minutes. Throughout the session, we continuously recorded and synchronized the ECG, PPG, and also the inertia signals, while obtaining a clinical cuff measurement every 60 seconds as a reference. The data set includes 10 subjects and was specifically designed to test the robustness under motion and autonomic stress. To complement this smaller dynamic data set, we also use a large open source data set collected from 100 subjects in ICU, intensive care units, with the synchronized ECG, PPG, and invasive arterial blood pressure measurements, so the ABP there showing. Together, these data sets allow us to train models on large-scale clinical data while validating performance in realistic wearable conditions. To translate these signals into continuous blood pressure estimates, we developed a lightweight dual-branch model. I wouldn't dig into so many details, but the key idea is actually for, again, beat-level inference and estimation of blood pressure. So there are 2 branches. The first branch learns from the beat morphology directly from the PPG morphology waveform using a small convolutional neural network. And the second branch, actually, okay, you might be asking, right, like other people do the history, but you don't do the history, and what's the other way to solve? Actually, you do want to know what this person did. Maybe he's exercising, right? And it has like the diet also changes, right? How do we consider those factors? What we did is a second branch. Capture the physiological context using features such as pulse transition time, as I mentioned just now, PTT, heart rate variability, respiration rate variability, those stuff. These complementary representations are fused in a lightweight regression model that estimates both systolic and diastolic pressure, SBP and DBP shown here. The key idea is that the model operates at the single beat level while retaining short-term physiological context, allowing robust prediction during motion. Here we show representative continuous prediction for one subject across the 4 physiological stages: rest, exercise, recovery, and a cold pressure stress. The model captures the expected rise. Actually, you can see the dots are from our models, right? And the continuous lines are our sensor recorded from when people are exercising across all the activities. Sorry. So the model captures the expected rise in systolic pressure, which is SBP, the bottom one, during exercise and a cold exposure compared to the baseline, which is in resting, the first stage. Even during periods with higher motion, cycling, right, and autonomic variability, so the cold pressure test, the predictions remain temporarily aligned with the intermittent cuff measurements. We always compare our measurements against the references, right? What's going on in the hospital. Across subjects, we observe similar behavior with the systolic pressure, again, SBP, showing larger excursion than the DBP, which is consistent with the exercise physiology. Across 30 independent runs, we observe a mean absolute error of approximately 4 millimeters of mercury for SBP and 1.8 millimeter of mercury for DBP. You might be curious, like, oh, what does it really mean? Okay, those numbers, right? So those, like, note that the FDA approval criteria for commercial sensors for BP management is a 5 millimeter mercury average and 8 millimeter for variance. Look, we are way below the, way better than the criteria, right? So importantly, the model remains stable across different physiological states. And also, like, look for our preliminary data. Those are preliminary data, okay? So we are not saying, okay, we are ready to release the cuff-based method yet, but look at the preliminary data. It's already way better than the criterion. Those results suggest that a bit-level multimodal inference can enable robust, low-power blood pressure measurement in wearable devices. Right now, you might be like, I mean, I can't really release too much information, but that's one of our ongoing projects. Instead of 2 pieces, okay, you have here on your ear, on the chest. We realized actually from this study, you only need something on the ear. So we are developing a ear ring better than our ring, really cool technology. All our sensors are wireless chargeable, right? You can charge in 3 hours and wear it for another 120 hours, those things, right? And also you can see from your front end, your app, real-time monitoring and logging. Back-end, I'll show you very soon. So beyond the blood pressure measurement, multimodal wearable sensing can also recover cardiac, mechanical, and timing signals and heart sounds that reflect a structural heart disease. Next, I'll show you how these signals can be used to monitor aortic stenosis severity. Here, we develop a multimodal wearable platform that records several complementary signals. I call it XCG, actually, because it includes 2 parts, EXG, which measure the EEG if you put on the head, right? ECG on the chest, EMG, the muscle, EOG, capture your eye movement, right? So this platform is designed to be lightweight, flexible, and suitable for long-term monitoring. More importantly, if you look at it, actually those are, it's very geometric adaptive. For example, we collaborate with the doctors. Oh, if upon the head, right? People have hair. So I don't like those long arms. I just need the gold cups. Okay, yeah, see, we can just cut the long arms we designed here, just solder the gold cups on there. And if I need the chest, on the chest to measure the heart rate variability, respiration rate, so breathing patterns, okay, you can keep those long arms. And if I need heart sounds, I can keep the one in the red circle, right, to capture is digital stethoscope, right? And you already see it's multifunctional and also geometrically adaptive, right? So, and also we collaborate with clinicians across 5 countries, right? So across like neurology, cardiovascular, rehabilitation, strokes patients, you know, and also the vocal health, also NICU, right? Neonatal intensive care units. So I don't remember how many times we find our sensor in the trash can because the clinicians are so busy, right? So as a designer, we have to make it robust enough when they pew harshly and put it on, it should last for hundreds of patients, right? So that's why actually one of our highlights as well. Overall, the key secret recipe for our lab is the hardware, firmware, software co-design. We always compare our product against the state-of-the-art commercial sensors. Our sensor realizes 5 times the life length per charge compared with the sensors with the same weight, same height, and also with the better signal quality. Here's a 10-second example signal, all raw snippet. The ECG captures the electrical activity of the activation of the heart, and then the SCG captures the mechanical vibration associated with the cardiac contraction. The PCG captures the acoustic events, such as heart sounds. Those are all raw signals you can see, very clean, right, without any filter. So by combining these signals, we can identify key cardiac timing events, including aortic valve opening and closing. These mechanical timing signals are traditionally measured only during ultrasound exams in hospitals, but now you can do at home. Here is the real-time signal recording from our sensor with aortic stenosis. I want to do the demo. You heard the heart sounds. It's like a lum-dum, lum-dum. That's your heartbeat, right? Your heartbeat will be associated with S1, S2, lum-dum. But that person has aortic stenosis, is lum-dum. There is actually blood leaking, right? So you can see from our signal, there beside those 2 peaks, you have some noise there. Depends on different types of the aortic stenosis disease, right? You could get like after S2 and also between S1 and S2, right? It will be lum-dum, right? Those things. And at the bottom, we see the real time, the doctors, okay, doctors are not engineers. I don't understand the details, right? But by looking those color here, the bottom, the red ones, stands for normal heartbeats. But all those highlighted colors at higher level is actually based on different locations, actually different frequency, right? It stands for example, aortic stenosis, tricuspid regurgitation, bicuspid regurgitation. Doctors can directly see from there. One important timing feature is acceleration time, which reflects the delay between the electrical activation and the peak mechanical acceleration. From the wearable ECG signals, we can extract this timing information, which is the left picture you see is from our sensor using the time frequency analysis. You can see from the white dashed line and at that point is actually the acceleration time. And we then compare this measurement with the clinical Doppler echocardiography from the hospital on the right side, which is the gold standard for assessing valve function. Here's the detailed comparison. To evaluate the agreement, we compared the wearable-derived acceleration timing with the echocardiography across a cohort of patients with varying levels of aortic severity, aortic stenosis severity. You can see like control, mild, moderate, and severe AS, right? In the top panel, both wearable sensor and echocardiography show a clear progression of the acceleration time as disease severity increases. So if this person, the patients have worse, the severity of aortic stenosis, you see acceleration time is increasing, right? So the blend outline, like from the top bottom, that plot shows the very small bias between our sensor and the gold standard in the hospital and acceptable limits of agreement. Finally, the correlation analysis demonstrates a strong relationship between the wearable-derived timing and the echocardiography reference. These results suggest that wearable sensors can recover clinically meaningful valve timing information traditionally only obtained, can be obtained during ultrasound exams. This recently published in the top cardiac journals, JACC. We also investigated whether those wearable signals can also estimate another very important parameter, peak aortic velocity, another key marker of stenosis severity. On the left, we show the correlation between the wearable predicted velocity and the echocardiography reference. The relationship shows strong across the range of the disease severity. On the right, we translate these features into the classification task that distinguish, can we distinguish, what we care is actually, can we reduce the referral rate? So especially for those under-resourced areas, right? They don't have access to the doctors, but if you can know, when should I go to the hospital to see the doctor actually? We train the machine learning model be able to detect whether this person, you have AS or not, or you have mild AS or not. You have moderate, when you have moderate or severe AS, you have to go to the hospital. With accuracy, 86% right now. It's not only accuracy, it's robustness. It's a combined parameter, it's called AUROC. That one is comprehensive, but you can understand as accuracy, 89%, indicating strong separation between a lower risk and a high risk groups. The goal is not to replace the echocardiography right now yet, but to provide a continuous risk tracking between clinical visits, where disease progression might otherwise go unnoticed. Also, I didn't have time to show here today, we also deployed the sensor to people who before the TAVR, is called a transcatheter valve replacement, before and after, we see a significant difference capturing the acceleration time and also peak time, right? Our model can capture that really well. So that means actually together, these results show that wearable platforms may enable continuous cardiovascular monitoring beyond the clinic, supporting early detection, continuous progression, and improved disease management. Why are we interested in, next is so I'm gonna talk about explainable AI-enabled deep, sleep stage and disorder detection. There's a switch from cardiovascular now to sleep, and then later will be neurology, So why are we interested in sleep study? We spend 1/3 of our lives asleep, and a good sleep is crucial for a strong immune system, better mood, and the body's healing procedure. It improves the brain function like alertness, decision-making, and problem-solving, and it reduces the risk of chronic diseases. However, what happens during sleep remains largely mysterious. You can see all the commercial products, Fitbit, right, bought by Google several years ago, right? Apple Watch, everyone's trying to do sleep, right? Something. American Heart Association, also known as HA's, checklist for optimal cardiovascular health is updated, now called Life's Essential 8, adding healthy sleep beside previous Life's Simple 7. Beside no smoking, blood pressure controlling, those that are, we add the actually healthy sleep is one key parameter to evaluate cardiovascular health. Compared with, and then, so wearable devices at risk offer at-home sleep monitoring but like has long sleep onset latency as they normally indicate sleep if you don't move your hands much because it's on the wrist, right? So if your left hand is okay, not moving, right hand on playing with your phone, right, on YouTube for hours, but it's still detected as you in sleep, which obviously is wrong. So for Fitbit commercial Apple Watches, you have to move like for 1 hour-ish, roughly. That's the algorithm. Your watch assumes that you're in sleep. But, and also, obviously, since it's at the wrist, right, the respiration tracking, which is actually important, I'm gonna show you, is missing. So with the 2 high-sensitive inertial measurement unit, which is IMU here, the sensing part inside, our sensor, you can see the exploded view, being actually is this sensor here, being the core components for sensing. Well-encapsulated LMA is called a low-power mechanical acoustic sensor attached to the skin, can detect the activity under skin tissues and organs. We encapsulate the LMA with the silicon elastomers, again, biocompatible, and analyze its mechanical properties to keep stable performance after repeated peeling and bending. Here's the picture of me wearing the whole set PSG in the hospital. All the wires attached, right? You couldn't even sleep well. That's why I said the current in the hospital is distorting the physiology we're trying to measure. It's actually not what is exactly happening during natural sleep, right? And also with our sensor at the super SNO notch, actually, where if you put your finger here, you can feel your heartbeats, and also your chest movement, of course, right? So then, we analyzed the mechanical properties to keep, we analyzed the stable performance after collecting the data, right? So we compare, while wearing our sensors, right, we have to collect the clinical gold standard, the PSG in the hospital. By collaborating with the clinicians at our Carl Foundation Hospital in Champaign, Urbana, we collected 43 nights data, every night more than 8 hours with our LMA sensors. It has onboard memory to store the data or real-time data streaming and plotting on iOS devices. You probably barely can see, but those small peaks on the plot are your heart sounds. And then those waves you see, that's your respiration cycles. Inhale, exhale. And at the back end, we have the cloud, real time, as long as so between the sensor and your phone, they're talking with Bluetooth, right? Using Bluetooth. And if your phone or iPad, so any device, the mobile gateway, right, is connected with Wi-Fi, and then at the back end on our cloud, we can real time as engineer, within 20 millisecond delay, we can see your data. And just in case why this is important, is we collaborate with, beside the 5 countries I mentioned previously, we also collaborate with Finland, those countries in Europe as well, right? So we ship the sensors there, doctors, you say, oh yeah, if there's something wrong, we can see whether, okay, the Bluetooth is connected or not, battery level is low or not, and also the raw signal from the person, temperature, body orientation, respiration rate, variability, heart rate variability, de-identified. We don't need to know the patient's name, right? We just see the sensor, use the sensor's name, and then got the information. We can debug remotely. While zooming into the raw signal, we can see actually this is okay, put our sensor on your super SNO notch. You can see the raw signals like cardio, respiration, activity, and orientation, whether you're at your back or on your stomach, and whether this person is snoring or not, whether that person have sleep apnea when they stop breathing and restart again. And we all have those information as input our machine learning model. We don't use like machine learning model that are black boxes. We are emphasizing explainable machine learning. So if something, with finally it will output the sleep stages, right? But if the doctor wants to track, okay, why this person have so much rapid eye movement stage, actually one stage very important for memory, and also if the lack of REM stage will be contributed to depression. So if they want to know what's going on, you can look at our features, see, okay, oh, that person's respiration rate changes, right? And also activity, that person moves more, maybe something going on the limb stuff. So it's not a black boxes. You give the reasoning for the doctors to make a decision to see whether you want to trust the AI or not. Okay, this is one example of the overnight more than 8 hours sleep data. Based on the algorithm, I don't have time to cover today, but you can see the calculation of our heart rate at the middle, and a respiration rate from our sensor, which is in the red lines, compared with the gold standard from PSG, which is the blue lines. They match pretty well overnight. Our second contribution for this paper, by the way, this paper is published in a worldwide prestigious journal, PNAS. So our second contribution is that a signal processing pipeline that extracts 146 physiology-informed features from our multi-modal wearable signals. These features span time, frequency, geometric, and nonlinear domains. But what does it really mean? Important, they are designed to reflect underlying physiological mechanisms, including autonomic regulation, cardiopulmonary coupling, and muscle tone. This allows us to incorporate physiological structure into the model rather than relying pure on black box learning. More specifically, if you look at this, actually, so for example, one feature for the RRV, which is the top one, in blue lines, you can see every time, so again, this is respiration rate, rhythm changes, right? It actually correlates really well with the green, dark green chunks, right? Which is in REM stage. Every time there is a small increase and a drop, you can see REM appears, which has a really high correlation with the respiration. Again, missing from most of the wearables right now, right? And similarly for some, whether that person is awake, we not only rely on the actual activity, which is the bottom one, yellow line. Actually, we found the pink line in the middle, heart reverberability. So correlated with the heart, every time there is a slowly increase and a sharp drop, that person is awake. You don't, even if that person doesn't move. Oops, sorry. So these features are then input into our, this is very complicated. I'm not gonna cover this, but the whole point is that we design some, actually, you asked about questions about AI machine learning models, right, about training, right? So as researchers in this field, we should design as, again, instead of black boxes, we should do semantic mechanisms or like attention training to be able to make it explainable. Here we can see actually we rank the importance of these features, how much they contribute to the specific sleep stage detection, like a prediction, right? Positively, negatively. So we can see the respiration rate variability, RRV features marked in blue bars, contribute most to REM or non-REM stage differentiation, while the activity features marked in yellow lead the sleep-awake differentiation. According to our results, now we know that Active Watch at risk cannot monitor sleep stage well, as they do not even measure respiration information. That actually can contribute the result why Fitbit was bought by Google several years ago. And right after our paper publication, Apple Watch reached out to me and say, hey, can you be our consultant on the sleep study? Because last year, I'm gonna show next as well. Last September, they released the Apple Watch can predict sleep apnea, only 40% accuracy. Our sensor can do 98 accuracy on preliminary study. Then we compare our sensor performance with all the existing commercial sensors, Apple Watch, Garmin, Oura Ring, anything you can name. We compare against them, you can see the red lines stand out, which are our sensor, the star, actually outperform them. When compared with the most recent sleep studies, not only, one sensor, but even other people are using multiple sensors, as I mentioned, maybe on the PBG, and also like ECG, and also maybe the belts, right, for the respiration. So we even compare with them, we can see our overall performance outperform them, not only one sensor, even as network, we outperform them. Why? Because again, it's a really, the core is combined, the hardware design, and also the feature engineering, and also the transparent machine learning models. But last but not least, I want to mention that, as I just mentioned, the sleep apnea that Apple tried to concur, right, or predict, right? So we convert those multimodal physiological signals into time frequency representation, and then use a lightweight convolution model to detect apnea events. The model operates on short windows and identified the segments directly from the patterns, right? So what we did actually, what I found really interesting, because that's actually also a very important thing, is like as designers, as Dr. Dia mentioned, that we really have to work with the clinicians, learn about the workflow, and know what's going on there. So what I noticed that when I saw the signals, every time before that person, the sleep apnea happens, so that person stopped breathing, I realized there is always, you can see in the window, right, highlighted window, there's always a drop in the green line. So actually that makes sense. I start to think about why. And then I attach the sensor, since it has a super notch, when I lie down, right? OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, how it happens, most of the time it's because under gravity, your tongue drops under gravity and block the airway. So that means actually our sensor is here using IMU. So basically, once your tongue drops, it pops out the super SN notch. That's why there is always a drop in the green. So we can predict before that person totally stop breathing, immediately at the first instant it changes, like physiology changes, we'll capture that. So we achieved the accuracy of 94%, significantly outperforming the baseline wearable approaches such as Apple Watch. Those results suggest that a wearable sensing combined with AI can enable accurate, continuous apnea monitoring outside the clinic. Next, let me show you how multimodal neutral motion sensing for seizure detection and a neonatal intensive care unit. Our sensor called SPINS, scalable, power-efficient inertia neural sensing. This small thing, on the left side, is deployed down to the seizures patients. On the right side is clear visibility, how it attaches onto the head. So this small thing realized a continuous 120 hours recording with such a 110 mAh battery. And it's fast, it will be fast wireless charged within 3 hours. Here our figures show the performance between comparison our sensor and also the gold standard in the hospital, right? Those like especially some of you might know NADAS, those companies, right? So the top one is actually a short time, for example, 8 seconds snippet. You can see ours is in blue line and NADAS is like in orange line. They match pretty well. Each peak is for the person is blinking. And then the bottom is like a more than 6 hours continuous recording. Left side is the gold standard in the hospital. Right side is our sensor. You can see, for example, at the third hour, you can see they capture the same brain activity, right? But you might see something is missing on the left figure because they are wired. So they lock the patients around the bedside. Once the patient moves around like a little bit further, the wires get detached, and then they lost the signal. But on our side is continuous monitoring, because you just wear the sensor, move around, go to the restroom, see your family. So we know that different EEG signals in different frequency. It shows it correlates to brain activities, right? For example, for most signals below 14 hertz or 12 hertz, it will be correlated more sleep, dreaming, or drowsiness, or at least not doing something cognitive heavy cognitive load activities, right? So what we did here is one example of 24-hour recording from a patient. You can see how clean the signal is. The top is the EEG in frequency domain. From those plots, you can see that person is in sleep or not. In deep, for example, at deep night, right? You can see that person is asleep, so the brain is in rest. And then the second plot is the raw signal, because it's 24 hours, so it's compressed. You cannot see too many details. This one, the third one, is actually the body orientation of that person. What like posture they are at, right? The last one is mobility, so how much they move actually at night. You can see obviously at a deep night, around 12 or starting 10 p.m. until the 5 a.m., the person moves very little at the middle. We recorded those patients more than 2,400 hours recording at the hospital. So we recorded 71 seizure events across 12 subjects and 8 seizure types in more than 2,400 hours, summarized on the left. So the traces on the right highlight a clear transition from inter-ictal to pre-ictal, ictal, and post-ictal phases with strong millivolt level discharges, confirming the clinical grade signal fidelity. The bottom sequence captured the dialeptic to automotor transition, consistent with the neurologist labeling and also notes. Demonstrating our device ability to detect and differentiate seizure dynamics. Here, our synchronized EEG IMU, so SPINS data, reveal that movement starts about 20 seconds before the EEG onset, shows in the top right plot. On the left, we see the automotor to dialeptic transition with the power band shifts, and below the post-ictal suppression, that's actually correlated with the sudden death. And then on the right side is a psychogenetic event. So it's actually not a seizure, but it's very similar to seizure based on the human's behavior. So the thing is, our sensor can give you even they look like a seizure, but it's actually not, by looking not only neurological signals, but also the activity context. So think about it. So we can see the movement changes. So the movement pattern changes 20 seconds before the seizure happens. We can capture, So basically what it means, we can send the alert to the caregivers, nurses, or their family. They have 20 seconds to prepare for the coming seizure event. That's we mean predictive. So here, our synchronized EEG, you can see, okay, in summary, like we actually captured the individual differences, obviously, because we recorded across the range, age range, like 20 to 69, and then a different skin tone and a balanced sex. And then also we realized, okay, this is correlated consistent with the cognitive science, fast frequency, and it's correlated with a high state of vigilance or cognitive activity. Slow waves is correlated with the drowsiness and sleep. And we also capture different types of delirium. That's our next step, right? And the seizures and the general neural activity events. So, like, what we want to show also, like, we also applied this similar sensor, but a different configuration. This small thing, multi-channel EEG IMU sensor to NICU, neonatal intensive care units. Actually, because we got reached out by neonatologists, right? They said, okay, NICU is 20 to 30 years behind adult ICU, the treated care. Especially the monitoring system for the preterm baby, because they're super small. I'm gonna show you actually our smallest babies we did a study with, like a 24-week-old, under 0.7 kilograms. It's like a little bit larger than the rabbit, like it's a very small baby, right? So, those are very challenging. So if your sensor is still big, and then what's the point of not locking them in the incubator, right? So our sensor want to allow kangaroo care. So it means like a skin-to-skin parent-infant interaction possible. So that parents don't have to be worried, look miserable, standing by the incubator, couldn't do anything, right? But now you can touch your kid and then increase their neurological development, especially at the early stage, which is important for their neuroplasticity, right? You can change it, actually contribute to their, the research already shows that skin contact between the parent and infant actually contribute positively to that neural development. So why we do care about like a preterm, especially preterm babies? So about 1 in 10 babies in the US is born preterm, and those infants face much higher risks of brain injury and death. However, they can't communicate. The only feedback probably we get is crying, right? So neurological events go unnoticed during the cortical window of the brain plasticity. Our wearable neurological neonatal EEG platform, as you can see here, enables a continuous gentle monitoring to detect these events early and support timely intervention. Actually, we collaborate closely with the industry, 3M big company, right? They are probably the world leader in the adhesive, right? So we have been collaborating 3 years and then explore for those fragile, delicate skins, we're just born babies, right? How do we not causing any skin adverse effects while maintaining the high signal fidelity? So here is one example. That's for left brain, top from the left brain, and the bottom right brain from the baby. You can see actually they're synced pretty well. Every time there's a peak spike there, and also the spike in the left brain. So we also we can capture also the not only frontal occipital, but also left and right, as I mentioned here. So one thing we noticed is that actually is only found in recent years. Babies' EEG is different from adults. You can see those spikes, right? It's called a discontinuity. So actually, with time, people's brain matures, those discontinuity significantly decreases. Here is like actually we capture when the baby was born until it got discharged from the hospital. We see actually significant change. It's called IBI, interburst intervals, right? So they actually significantly increase when the brain matures. So overall, our sensor can capture the bilateral brain synchronization, and also bilateral and also frontal occipital, right? So discontinuous background activity in preterm infants, and also interburst interval length tracks brain maturity with gestational age. And also we capture the distinct neural patterns during sleep and awake states. And I don't have time to show here today. But yeah, beside, I think we probably went a little bit, okay, yeah, we are on time. So exactly, so beside what I showed in details today, actually we also have a lot of ongoing study. For example, right now this one is collaborating with Chicago, so Northwestern Memorial Hospital. We are collaborating with the industry, the Maze company you might have heard, they're really good at design AR, VR games. How do we use those AR, VR technology, how people rehabilitate, especially for those strokes patients, right? So our sensor have been deployed, for example, on patients, The photo is a little bit overlapping that. It's okay. So this is the photo of when applied on the patient's body, inner thigh, right here, 2 sensors. And so on day 1, and then you can see the picture, the progression of the sensor and also the adhesive here. At day 11, it looks like a little bit darker, but overall the signal quality actually looks as well as at day 11 is as well as day 1. So, and also pay attention that, note that this is with daily shower exposure. Wearing our sensor, you can take shower, do normal activities, and then the sensor still stay on without causing any redness, itchiness, or like a red, any adverse skin effect. That's after 1 year study with a 3M company, thanks to their really very, I would say, selfless, collaboration, because a lot of time at the very beginning, we test the different types of adhesive. They just donate free to us. And also, yeah, we are collaborating with the Meta, Da Vinci Robotics, those surgery robots, right? Using our sensors to see, because right now doctors when do the surgery, right? How deep you should cut to tumors. So we collaborate with the industry extensively. So beside wearable platforms, I don't have time to cover too much about implantable platforms, but we do have implantable forms for cardiovascular disease detection. Right now, at the early stage of the animal models, so the small sensor I'm gonna show you in this photo, different from the gold standard right now, like, right, they lock the animals inside the cage or inside them, right? Our sensor allows the animals move freely, and also it's battery free. There is no battery inside. I'm gonna show you that the small thing you're gonna see capture the body temperature is always default, right? In our sensor, in wearables as well. So body temperature, heart rate variability, seismography, respiration rate, respiration variability, body orientation, activity level, ECG. The small thing I'm gonna show you, this small thing actually enabled all of that. This is exploded view of our sensor, and an animal can move in that cage wirelessly, freely, after you implant it inside. And then I'm gonna show you we record more than 3 months, right, continuously, and then that will contribute to a lot of drug tests, right, and then cancer treatment, those therapy, right? So, and also more importantly, the key challenge is that, okay, how do you confirm when you embed inside, right? How do you confirm the animals don't feel miserable? I mean, they will feel miserable anyways, but we want to, as engineers, we want to design, make their life better, right? And also, how do you confirm the electrodes don't move in the body, right? They're animals, they're every day super active. I was amazed that after the surgery, 10 minutes, the mice can climb up and down, you know, like it's so super active, it's totally different from human, right? So the thing is, like, they will bend their body. Right now, it's embedded on the body, right? They will bend their body. How do we make sure the Bluetooth still works really well after, you know, more than 3 months, right? So, so we did a significant engineering. I don't have time to cover today. But one thing is that to reinforce the contact between our electrodes and the skin, so the tissues under the skin, we had bioresorbable hydrogel. What does it mean? It means when we do the surgery at day 1, we implant our sensor. After 7 or 10 days, to 10 days, the hydrogel the adhesive are absorbed by the animal, and then actually force the electrodes grow onto the muscle or the tissue. So that's why. So we make it sure the signal quality is still high all over the study. So now we capture 98 days heart rate. And also, I zoom in a little bit. For 30 days, you see the respiration rate change, and also the temperature, the day and night shift, you can see, and also the activity level. Obviously, the rodents, right, are more active at night, right? So, so we did 100 mice, 30 rats, and 3 dogs. So, I mean, still, you see, still there's a long way to go in human. But next step, how do we integrate it with the pacemaker, and also those for human platforms. Okay, last but not least, I still want to mention that, as mentioned previously, we mentioned a predictive. Okay, we realize that, right? What about a disruptive? So the future of our lab is actually we are aiming for closed loop, clinically integrated wearable health systems. And then so in the past several years, we've been built and deployed such platforms over a network of collaborators across multiple countries, actually not only 5, but hospitals and labs spanning hundreds of participants from neonates to older adults. This deployment cover cardiovascular, neurological, and movement-related monitoring across settings like sleep, exercise, rehabilitation, and clinical care. And we closely interact with 3 startups, and we are going to have startups in the coming several years after, hopefully closer after my tenure, although we already got investors actually attention a lot recently. So across the examples I showed today, cardiovascular monitoring, neural sensing, rehabilitation, and biochemical sensing, the common theme is not just building new sensors, but building connected systems. Connected. Our goal is to move from isolated measurements forward, integrated, continuous understanding of physiology. We start with the multi-modal sensing, electrical, optical, mechanical, and recently we have the electrochemical and metabolism, right? And also inflammation markers, right? And motion signals are captured in everyday environment through wearable and implantable platforms. These signals are synchronized and are processed using lightweight explainable AI models that can run on device or at least near the patient, allowing us to extract meaningful physiological states that can inform clinical decisions, guide therapy, or adaptive interventions. Whether that's like a medication timing, rehabilitation feedback, or autonomous monitoring in vulnerable populations. So the vision is a closed loop framework: sensing, understanding, intervention, and adaptation, all operating continuously and seamlessly in real-world setting. The projects I showed today represent the pieces of those larger systems, and together they point toward a clinically integrated multimodal bioelectronics. To summarize, our group focuses on building integrated platforms that connect sensing, intelligence, and clinical translations. On the technology side, we develop wearable and implantable signals capable of capturing synchronized physiological signals across organ systems. On the modeling side, we focus on multimodal fusion, and energy-efficient AI can be deployed to the chips, right? So the patients can see actually the results at home. You don't have to send it to cloud, and we can send it to the cloud if necessary. But for example, some seizures or sudden death, we have to predict it, right? So the time delay should be small enough. That can operate continuously outside the clinic. And on the clinical side, we work with collaborators to translate those systems into application, ranging from cardiovascular disease and neural monitoring to rehabilitation and neonatal care. Ultimately, the long-term goal is to enable biosymbiotic systems, that's our lab name, SymbioX, right? Technologies that don't just measure the body, but interact with it, learn from it, and support personalized care over time. We're actively building on collaborations across sensing AI and clinical domains, and we are always looking for students and partners interested in this direction. Here's our lab website. You can just you can go there, check out our studies. Recently, we didn't really update here. Actually, that's a very cool. I'm very looking forward to that new technology. Everything is developed at Vanderbilt, because I've been at Vanderbilt 1.5 years almost. So we are really preventing falls. These not only detect falls. Right now, people have been trying years, right, to see, okay, how do we detect falls? Next step, right now, based on our technology already, we can predict falls. And next step is without the robots or the assistive equipment run to you or caregivers, we can prevent those people fall. But right now, I can't release much information, but only for those people who without neuromuscular, without a muscular problems. They have, healthy legs, but they might not have a really healthy brain systems, and also vestibular system. They cannot detect falls really well. Our sensor, everything can do it for you, correct it for you before you fall. We prevent you from falling. All right, so beside this, and I didn't have time to mention today, we do a lot of multi-model sensor-enabled, safe and efficient human-robotic interaction. So on the sensor side, I introduced some of them. On the left side, actually, we have the robots, right? Like how do we, right now, collaborating again with the DaVinci Robotics and also autonomous driving with Waymo company. How do we evaluate how much people trust the AI? How do you model trust? That's a complicated model, right? Not a complicated problem, mathematically modeling, even let's say training, right? But overall, so I want to really acknowledge our collaborators. This is a very small part of them across the, definitely engineering, and then cardiovascular, and then neurology, sleep clinics, and then babies, so neonatologists, and also muscle rehabilitation, the Army, and the vocal health, and P&G from industry. And also more about the startups we have been collaborating with, And we have many more at Vanderbilt. So right now we are collaborating with 6 doctors across different clinics and institutes. So, and also our lovely SymbiaX lab members. And then our motto is just to do it. So as engineers, we are here to solve problems and get things to work and make people feel a better life. So luckily, I got a really powerful team. They share the same dream of global health to advance the healthcare system by designing smart systems to improve equity, accessibility, and affordability. Thank you. From now on, I will take questions. All right. Seems we got a bunch of interesting questions. First one, how easily removable are the chest blood pressure monitors in terms of radiology? Perfect question. Adding another monitor to the chest and could hinder the viewing of a chest X-ray. Yeah, that's right. So let me put it this way. So in the past, how we collected data was after people do the echocardiography, which is Doppler or MRI, right? So right now our sensor, because we use the magnetic, some parts inside the sensor are using magnetic sensing. So it's not compatible with the MRI yet. Although one neurologist reached out to us, actually see whether we can develop that. Right now we are really, our plates are really full, but in the coming several years, we do want to make MRI compatible systems, right? But overall, let's say, so what we did actually is a person finished their normal clinical visit, and then they stay 2 more minutes with the doctor, put our sensor on, and collect the data. That's actually what we did. So I would say we didn't do the really synchronized, right? A recording. So that means actually if we do the synchronized recording, our accuracy, our performance should be better, because right now it's like, that person already know he or she has what kind of level of severity, aortic severity, or in general, valvular disease, right? And then we record from our sensor, but we can predict the similar results, right? So, but yeah, so we haven't, if we continuously keep the sensor on the chest, yes, that will prevent, or at least hinder the accessibility for the radiology. But that's not what we aim for. At the very early stage, we validated our technology. And in the long run, we don't want you need the radiology anymore, right? So we want to use our users to use our sensor at home. So you just wear the sensor, move around.
Dr. Du, we have time for one more question.
One more question, okay. So second question, yeah. How home sleep studies have increased in population? Sorry, at home sleep studies have increased in popularity. And then, but uncovered, oops, that one disappeared because of voting, maybe it's like, so yeah, okay. So do any of your wearables alert someone to oncoming seizure for vocal seizures in a non-verbal autistic child? So what we did for seizures actually right now is more elder population. What we have, actually I have everything installed on my phone. We designed the app, right? We do send the notification. And actually it's very complicated subject when it comes to wearable technology, right? So people have been asking me, how do you really send the notification? Basically it's a better user interface, right? So we do, once we predict something, we will send the notification. Currently, we are still testing, so we'll send it to the doctors, caregivers, not to the patients yet. So that's actually yesterday with the lunch, actually, Dean, is saying, and also Dr. Dia saying, like, okay, how, for sure, in the future, we have to empower our patients, right, to learn about AI and also to decide based on the notification we send you. But early stage right now, we are sending the notification to the clinicians right now. And also, we haven't collected extensive data from babies on seizures yet. Although Montreal, we are collaborating with the Montreal Children's Hospital for next step. We already passed the Canada Health IRB stuff. I hope that answered your question. All right, thank you everyone.